computer. Okay, everybody's got the recording. Super. Okay, so I'm going to try not to make this too awkward, moving around in front of this new equipment here, but we'll see how that goes. So for a start, thank you all for coming for the November open studio. I'm actually not sure if I'm going to have one in December because December seems to be getting tied up real quick. So what I'll do is I will, send out a notice when I do my newsletter at the end of the month to let you know. But if I don't have it in December, I'm going to resume in January anyway, because I'm really enjoying these. It's a fun way to, connect with people that are out there and share what's going on and, ask questions. So give answers. So that'll be good. But anyway, what I thought I would do today is show you a little bit about using acrylic inks with pastels. And from previous demos, and if you've been in class with me or if you've seen my art and shows, that I do a lot of different underpaintings underneath my pastel. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll use pastel and alcohol wash. I've used gouache, I've used watercolor. I really don't tend to use acrylic paint or oil paint because I really don't have a lot of either of those. But those are washes that you can use underneath pastel. Toning paper or doing it so that you're blocking in specific areas, and I'll show you a little bit about that. But the past must be 4 years, I've really taken to using these acrylic inks. And this is the brand that I use, F&W. There's a couple of them out there. I just happen to like this one. And my son had given me quite a few jars of it for gifts. And then the next Christmas, I got more. So I've really got a nice collection of their jars. And the reason I'm standing here shaking them is in order to use the acrylic inks, you have to shake them a little bit because they do settle. But they are different than alcohol ink. The acrylic ink is resistant to water, so you clean it with alcohol. But it also means you can do some really fun things with the alcohol actually on your painting surface. So I was going to show you a couple of those first. And if you're in class with me, you've seen them. But you can just take and you can do a wash. So this is just a soft color, a peachy yellow. It does have some pumice ground on it so that it's a little bit rough because I'm using this on a birch board that I've treated. So I can tone with it, all one solid color. So that works out really nice. The other thing I can do, and this is really a lot of fun, and I've used this with quite a few of my underwater paintings. You can take acrylic ink and you can apply it. And then when you squirt it with the alcohol, you get all these lovely bubble line creations that show up. And it washes and it changes the evenness of the texture. This again is I tend to do these a lot on the boards, although I do them on the pastel papers too. But what you're seeing is a little bit of a dull finish to it. And that's because, again, this has the pumice pastel ground on top of it. The other thing you can do, and really just play with them, there's so many different fun things. The other thing you can do is you can block in areas, okay? And this one's got a little bit of a variety in it. Gosh, it's sad to say, I think I did this one over a year ago. I still haven't painted it though, and I'll do that sometimes, get all these boards done and then come up with paintings later. So you can see overlapping washes of the acrylic ink and then using alcohol, I can actually wipe off areas.
And that's very expensive.
Oh, and if somebody could just check their volume because
Can you keep it down?
Okay, can people just perfect. Okay, thank you. So I can actually put color on and I can take color off by just dabbing a little bit of alcohol on paper towel, but you have to be careful because with the paper towel you could also leave some of the fibers behind. So it kind of depends on what you're using. little bit of foam will do it. Anything at all that you're not gonna leave the particles. And that's the problem with some of the sanded boards in paper towel. As soon as you start applying something and rubbing, what happens when you rub, the fibers of this come off on the sanded part of the paper. So dabbing it works out better if you are using paper towel and a sanded paper. So anyway, so what I've started in class, this is twofold, and I'm doing two different ones in two of the different classes. But I did a little small painting, which you could also consider a color study, but a color study I often don't complete it to the sense that I would actually frame it. But this little one here, I wanted to, finish it as a completed 8x10 painting, and that's on the Lux paper. It's a gorgeous paper. If you've not used it yet, it's a really, really nice paper. That's LUX, Lux. I believe it only comes in white. I'm not sure. It's not cheap, but it's worth it. So well worth trying. So this has a wash underneath it, but I did use pastel and alcohol, but it gave me an idea of what I wanted to do with the painting. The idea is, oh, look at that. Something's got stuck on there. The idea is to blow your, increase the sizes of your paintings. So that's why, doing it small and then blowing it up large, you've got something to refer to. So this one, oops, I am still hearing some noise. So can everyone just check to make sure they are on mute? Okay. So with this one here, this is 8x10. It's now 16x20. It is on Gator board that I've treated with gesso, one coat of gesso on the front, one coat of gesso on the back. And then I've applied 3 layers of the pumice gel medium. Sometimes it's called pastel ground. Either way, what happens is it takes a smooth surface and it gives you the grit. So when you've got the grit, then the pastel is something to hang on to. And you can vary that. So I do all different sorts of textures with it. This is what I would consider a little bit more smooth because I haven't used any splattering techniques on this. This is just brush strokes. So from there, I had the drawing, did the drawing on here with just a soft 4B graphite pencil. And I'm just blocking in the areas, the color that I see underneath my painting. Now, I'm going to be using a lot of these colors, but what I'm trying to do with this one here is anticipate the color that I see that is underneath. And by that, I mean, how is the light hitting it? What's happening to the changes in the water? What's happening with the lights coming from this side, the light on this side? So I'm already seeing some areas, even what I did, that I want to actually revamp. So I'm going to do a little bit on that today so you can see. Now, this one's a little bit more, this is a little more, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Thoughtful. I'm really following a design. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just get the colors on there very loosely. But because of the style of this painting itself, I really did want to, draw out the buoy, draw out the other buoy, get the waves in, so I was being a little bit more careful with my application. But that will loosen up because I can't ever stay within the bounds of something that to me feels like a paint by number. So that does wind up getting loosened up. So what I'm going to do is this is what we're going to try now, guys. Okay, I have not done this too many times. We're going to just switch this now, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing over here. Let me just, okay, and I'm just going to zoom in just a tiny bit here and check and see how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. Everyone can see my countertop? Okay, great. Okay, so these, I have, like I said, I have a lot of these colors. I tend to use just these trays to mix, but I give you a hint, these are really good. Yesterday in class, I used the wrong one. Some of them are flat, some of these are flat on the inside. Okay, there's no ridge except for a little ridge here. Well, I wound up not being able to control the color. Some of these takeout containers have a lip on the inside, which means you can put colors around the outside and you can mix on the inside. And if you're careful, you wind up not having the colors all bleed. And that is my intention. I have them in a couple of different sizes. This one here, I have to be a little careful about because there are holes in the corner. Everything will come out. And I do tend to be a little bit sloppy, but we're going to hope that that doesn't interfere. So anyway, plan here. What I want to do is I really want to mix some colors, and these are great for mixing. So I've got this lovely warm green here, and I also have this cool green, and I'm kind of picturing when you look through the water, you see the light that's coming through, and I know how this is going to look because what's going to happen is the color that I put underneath for this underpainting is going to show through where the pastel marks sit on the raises. And you'll either see it today or you'll see it in some photographs that I take. So we're just going to get a couple of these. I'm going to start with the lighter ones. And the reason you want to do the lighter ones first is because it's a lot easier to adjust your light areas than it is to with dark than it is to take a dark color and try to make it lighter. So you have to think a little bit more like a watercolorist if you're doing that. Okay, so let's get a little bit of this color here. And I'm going to just, okay, good. That's one thing that I find problematic with these droppers tend to get that is stuck here, you know, gob up on the inside. So we'll just put that to the side. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow here because I really want to warm this up. And yesterday when I was pouring out, though, what's really interesting, they're all the same, but I find that these bigger jars, they tend to settle even more and they're a little thinner. And just for fun, I have a little bit of this pearlescent. And this one, I just put a little bit on the, oh, wow. There we go. Put a little bit over here on this side. Okay. And I'm starting with some of those areas. So I'm going to put a little in here. Oh, good, you can see. A little bit of this yellow just to warm it up even more. So I'll just pour a little yellow over here. It's nice. Oh, geez, it didn't go quite as light as I thought. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just tip it and I'll mix it. Oh, yes, that's coming about better. You know, when you look through the water and you see that there's that lovely turquoisey. Oh, turquoisey. Let's put a little blue in it too. Green. Oh, good. That looks nice. I want it to feel really warm. Okay, this is looking good. Okay, and let's just test that right there. Okay, I'm looking for a medium dark. There. Okay, so that'll be good for my, where's my water? Got to do. Okay, so what happens is this, as I said, to clean it, you use alcohol. While you're working with it, you can use water, okay? So to just clean it up, the water will work. Once you've let it set for a little bit, or if you're really trying to wash something off, you do need to use alcohol. Okay, so we're gonna lighten this up even more. Put it in there. Just got finished saying I was gonna do it light, and I went and made it a little bit too dark. Okay, and then we're going to use a little of the pearlescent in it. The pearlescent gives it this lovely pearly look to it. So just keep mixing. Let's see how light that is. Okay, that's a little bit lighter. So you can see one, I've made it a little bit more transparent, but two, you can see has a much lighter value to it than this here. And I'm starting with my lights. Okay, good. So we're going to come in and we're going to come back up here. It'll work right there. Okay, and then I'm just going to pull this out just a touch. Does anyone have any questions about the pearlescent or the acrylic inks?
Betsy, I was wondering, what was that first dark color that you started with?
Okay, the first color that I started with, this one is called Sap Green, and it's a warm green.
Okay.
And I have no idea, but I wound up with this ad that showed up on my screen, and I'm trying to get rid of it. Okay. Oh, goodness me. There it goes. This is the problem sometimes, the computer has a mind of its own, and the next thing you know, you've got ads popping up all over. Okay.
Thank you.
Betsy, have you tried the pearlescent before?
Yes, I really do like the pearlescent. I've used it. What I find though with the pearlescent is that you do have to be a little bit careful about controlling it, because it can be very pearly if you put too much in. And what I find that is if it's too pearly, that iridescent look, I find a little bit annoying. I have a couple of paintings where I really used it primarily to add light to certain areas, and it works great. It almost did look like light hitting something. Okay, so this is, let's see if this is going to, I'm looking at my, okay, that one's a little light, gonna get a little bit more in there, lighten it up a little bit more. And I'm seeing a lot of this in this area here, reflecting through, coming down. Okay, and then in through here.
Betsy,
Yeah.
the pearlescent that you used, it's not a color, it's just like a pearl.
Yeah,
like a white
it does. It just looks like pearl white. I mean, it really is. It's lovely. What I really like is that the pearlescent part actually gives the color this almost like glimmery without being glittery, if you can kind of imagine it. Sometimes with even like with the iridescent pastels, what happens is you wind up with almost like a contrived feeling.
Yeah.
And what happens with this, this is working out good. Okay, I'm picturing this all underneath this light blue. So that's what I'm trying to do. Get it on nice and loose. I'm not worried about some of those lines, because what will happen, I come right through here. Those lines are going to be painted on with pastel. So, I mean, if you're someone who's very neat, you might want to do this flat. I don't mind drips. I also want it to, kind of have a loose feeling because it is water. So the little drips will work out fine. I want it to overlap. And I do want to do something while it's wet. The light's coming from over here. So I do want to just knock this down just a little bit in here, because I'm going to be coming over this with something else later on. And just bring that through light here, light, light, light. Okay, we're going to have a little bit right in through here. And I'm just going to, even though it's not in the photo, in the sketch, I wanted to have like a little bit running along the edge. So I'm going to do that. Okay, that area is dark, not going to do that. This area is a little bit light, Okay, I was very unhappy with this color. I put it down, it looked really good. And when I got it on here, I thought, oh my gosh, I really, it's way too dark. I've got to lighten it up. See, and I can just lightly go over. It's so transparent that I can just give this another feel here. It's the same with this. Get rid of some of the intensity of this orange, which is a little too bright. So you have to think of it, I'm thinking of it really in layers. Give a little bit more of the feel of there, that rounded bit. Okay.
Betsy, is this your second layer of the acrylics?
Yes, this is anything that is this bluish green or this variations of a yellow orange was my first layer.
Yes.
This one wound up being too dark. But you know, the thing of it is in doing this, if it's too dark or it's not the right color, I mean, I can adjust it with the acrylic inks, but as long as the idea is there for what it is I was trying to paint, you know, have the feel of the water. Oh, yeah, and this was really dopey. I went and I put the size of it in the corner. Didn't realize it when I was doing it, so I've sealed the size in. So when I was putting this together, I realized, oh, I'm gonna have to put something dark there to cover up 16 by 20. There you go. Okay, now let's see. There's a couple of areas that what I want to do while it's wet, and this, oh, look at these lovely drips. Let me just check this. This is alcohol spray bottle. Okay, gonna get little bubbles just in that background area. And let's get a couple up here, because I can cover them up. They can dry. I can do a whole load of things. I can still continue to paint. Okay, so now I'm going to come through. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to figure out. Okay, so it's just really okay. Remember, I'm trying to create water here. So I want it to feel like, okay, some of those bubbles look real, they look really nice, but this is not looking straight down. I'm looking back a little bit there. Okay, let's flatten this out there. I don't really want a lot of bubbles. I like these here. I'm just going to leave them the way they are. That's closer to us. We could be looking down on them, so that's fine. That'll work out. Okay, let's just take and put a little bit more over here. And I come in here with this here. I'm just going to lighten this. Let's see. Okay, that guy's not lightening up. I'm going to have to add a little bit more to it. Okay, I have also, let me just clean this off. Just going to come over here, and this one, I'm not going to cut this one. This is like one of my favorite colors. This is, whoops, Purple Lake, and it's this great violet. So I'm just going to get a little bit of this in my tray here. And I'm going to get some of this in some of these dark areas. We'll leave a little bit of space between the other two. I'm not going to point down again. I'm going to get too confused going back and forth. Okay, so I've got my light, I've got some of my darks, I've got my medium. I'm going to come in with, we're going to see how dark this is. I'm going to test it right on here. Okay, if it's too dark, oh, it's not going to be too dark. Okay. This is all about value shifts. Okay, so the edge of this buoy here is going to show up. This guy's too small. I can't use him. Okay, so let me just rinse this guy up a little bit better. I really like the fan brushes, but this one I can get these, this lovely violet in here. And bring it. And these, there was really creating these lovely stripes. And the idea is what you have to think, ooh, look at how dark that looks there. Whoops, let's lift a little bit of that. There we go. What you have to think of with your, when you're using the acrylic ink is you can paint as wild colors as you want and let some of it show through, or eliminate it altogether when you start to paint with your pastel. So you're really not limited to only, I mean, you could do this in total local color. I could be doing this in my buoy colors and in the color of the water, but I'm really trying to create something where those colors are going on top and the color that I'm putting underneath is going to enhance that. So this is why I'm seeing this violet as the dark areas. And the violet will also act as this lovely connection between my color palette of, okay, that's a nice color on top of that. A nice color palette between my yellow orange, yeah, that looks good. Violet and my greens, so that secondary color palette. And I know I've mentioned it before, I do tend to like that color palette. This is what I mean about painting your light colors first. Because now I can go in here and this green here, it's easier for me to go over that green with it being dark. It'd be near impossible to take this dark violet and actually change it light, which is what I have to do over here. I'm going to have to mix more with that. Okay, and then this swept around over here, and I keep referring to this over here. I have a photograph, but if I have done a color study, I use my color study as, oh, and that looks really nice on top of the green. Look at the violet on top of the white, looks one way. The violet on top of that green looks slightly darker and slightly muted. That's very pretty. Okay, I'm gonna let some of those greens show through. Okay. These guys are all gonna be darker, so I'm just gonna get a little bit of dark in here where this is. I'm just gonna block these in. There's a doohickey that comes around. It's another, and then this, it's the darker on the inside, so I'm gonna leave a little bit on the out. Swoosh it up, don't get stuck in a whole load of detail because it's going to go over it with pastel anyway. And then there's the rope. And we'll just come down.
So Betsy?
Yeah?
It's Paula.
Hi, Paula.
For some of the areas that you've mentioned you think are too dark, like the green and that reddish orange.
Yeah.
Will you lighten it necessarily with the ink, or will you just rely on, your layer of pastel to make that a little lighter?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure how successful I'm going to be lightening it the way I want with my ink, but I'm going to give it a try because it doesn't really matter. I am going to be able to fix it. I'm going to be covering it up with pastel anyway. So you could do it either way, but I am going to try to make this lighter. Okay. Not much, but just parts of it, because this is, I like the way this is fading over here, okay? This area, the whole idea of this is this light is coming in. I want it to feel as if there's strong light, okay? And then you've got this lovely busyness of the water that's rippling behind the buoys, the way it is flowing around them. And oh gosh, look at these drips. Aren't they just, let me just move that guy just a little bit. So you get this real sense. I've just got to stand in front of you for a minute because I need to kind of get a little bit more of an angle there. So that's why this dark over here is partially bothering me, because I don't mind the dark over on this side. I don't want the same darkness over here. So I'm going to avoid using my violet acrylic there. It's the same with it. This is a reflection down here. I don't want to go nutty adding a whole load of the violet down here because the reflection is going to be a little more muted than the actual objects up here. Let me just give this a little bit more of a curve. Now, my drawing was very neat. And then as I paint, I tend to, disrupt that, that neatness, that, more detailed. And I don't know, I think, I guess my mind works best that way, by getting something down accurately, or as accurate as I can do it, and then breaking it apart. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get these guys in water so they don't, because the alcohol ink dries fairly quickly, not super quick, but it does dry fairly quickly. So let's just try a little bit of control there. Okay, this is already dry. Once it's dry, it resists this. Okay, I'm getting some nice little drips there. It helps to drip it too. Okay, so if this area is lit up here, and I've got light coming across, hitting this, it's hitting this, it's hitting this, I do not want all the light down here. So I really like this greenish color that I wound up creating here with the yellow. I've got this bluey, you know what's going to happen. Does this happen to other people too? A color isolated sometimes can be really annoying, and then as you start adding other colors around, it doesn't look so bad. So, which is another reason why I'm waiting to do something with this area, because it may resolve itself as I do other things here, and I may not mind it as much because I was comparing it to a lot of yellow oranges and white. So let's see. Okay, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of water, sorry. And you can thin it with water. So I'm going to put just a tiny touch of water in that violet I was working with, okay? Now, the one thing you have to be careful of is once you've thinned it a little bit with water, okay, there it is. No, it's going to be even thick. Oh, yeah, that's it. See, now I'm getting that one, just a little touch of this violet. And there's going to be swirls there because I have waterline, waterline, waterline. Always know where your waterline is when you're painting water, so that where these objects sit are on different planes. So we get the feeling of going forward here or going backwards, which is also the intent. Let's see if I can, oh yeah, I'm just gonna use this a little bit more like a wash, pull it down, just that. And then, oh, you know what, I'm gonna get it in here because this is the color. Get that little violet that is watered down. Okay, that's knocking it up a bit. Okay, I'll show you something else I'm going to do to get rid of that. Okay, and this violet is working great to just take that bluish green that I had. A lighter version of this or a diluted version of that is here. And this is just slightly duller. This is how, look at how light that is. That's how light I did it. Oh, I just did that to show you, but I kind of like it. Oh, maybe I'll just put a little of that. Okay, hang on a second. Let's try this. Let's get this guy. Oh, is this kind of like a happy accident? Am I going to like this? This is where it helps to have an idea of your palette. So not that when I have an idea for a palette, it doesn't mean like I'm like totally stuck with it. But you know, I am thinking of this, use of that secondary color. These fan brushes are just fabulous for getting in. Okay, gonna come around, gonna come down. Look at that. This guy's a little bit. Okay. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with this up here. Oh, that might work. That might work. Okay, let's get a little bit there. That 16 by 20 is still showing. Have to really slap on the pastel over here. The other thing that I'm consciously thinking of is I've got light water here, darker value buoy. It's going to be the same colors that are in the smaller painting there. I have dark here with a very light. There's a lot of light hitting this. So this I want to stand back just a little bit. So this wash is doing just enough to, okay, perfect. And I'm gonna, again, I'm thinking of the fact this is water, so this is layers. So that little transparency, these guys, so we have them coming down. I'm just gonna do too much. I'm gonna let that dry. I might like that. Not so sure. Let's get a little bit, let's dilute it just a slight. Kind of keeping, remember when I did the green, I was thinking of the swirl of the water. So I'm thinking of that swirl of the water there. Okay. This needs to be a little muted right there. So I'm going to come over that with a little bit, mute a color. When you think of neutralizing, muting, graying down, whatever word you want to do, think of it in terms of the, some sort of color connection that you're trying to make there. And the violet, a diluted violet on top of the green does just enough to knock down that green. Got a drip here I'll have to take care of, but I did want to show you one of the ways that I can fix this area here, but let's just dab that up. Okay, well, that's a little dry, a little wet there. Okay, this area is still too dark, okay? And the reason I know that is I've got my color study right there and I just put it on way too dark. That's just like silly. I don't know what I was thinking. So I am going to try that method of just lifting up by putting some alcohol right on the, I'll put this on. Look at this. Now this is on a textured board. So I don't know if you're seeing the texture that's showing up. So this is not going to be a smooth board when I paint it. Okay, I'm going to get a lot of texture. If you're familiar with my underwater series or my nighttime paintings, most of them, not all, but most of them are done on this sanded board. Okay, so I was able to lift that. Okay, so the other area I want to lift is just a little bit over here. This is gone. There's no way it would be this dark. And here I went and put that violet on. I love the way you think about things after the fact. Okay. Now, if you're using the pumice ground and you're actually lifting, you don't want to press down so hard that you get into the gesso area, because then you're going to wind up with a hole. And then you have a hole to repair. So I'm being very conscious of the fact I can see the marks in there from where my brush has made the sweep for the pumice ground. So I know to stop now because I can see them, so I don't want to disrupt them. So I'm going to do is just going to take another one right here. The other area I really wanted to kick up a notch. I could try it back there. Let me do this first. A lot of light is falling right here. I feel like I have just added a little bit too much of this, as lovely color it is. Oops, I got a dog. Okay, whoever has a dog.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that lightened it just a little bit much there. Light is falling a little bit there. That's not a solid, it's not a solid orange there. So I can Okay, that's it. The other area that was really strong, which I certainly could take care of with the pastel, but I'm going to do it now because truthfully, these underpaintings, no matter how you do an underpainting, whether it's acrylic ink or pastel and alcohol, or, you know, just even pastel, marker, whatever, that is your guide to your values and your shapes. So, you know, I really want to make sure that those areas that I want super light, that I have at least created a little bit of a difference than the other areas that are around light hitting it. Okay. Now I'm not talking about the you know, embellishment light that's like glittering or falling around the bottoms of things. That's a different type of light. I mean the light that's actually sitting on objects, and we'll get just a little bit right there. Perfect. And then this is where I had stopped here. So I'm just going to come a little bit, just lift a little bit that up. Okay. And I kind of like that softness. And if you recall, that's the same way I got these shapes right here. It's just by lifting. It kind of gives a nice flow too. Okay, there we go. Okay, so violet's really strong as an underpainting, but that's okay because I want that flow of the water. And I'm really kind of thinking myself through here now, whether or not I do want some of that flow of that violet back there. Okay, so what's the worst thing that happens? I put it on and it doesn't work, right? Just take it off. So you know what I'm going to do? So this is, I'm going to just add a touch of water to this one, but I'm going to make it a little bit, just stand a little bit farther away so that I can keep it really kind of loose. Okay. Okay, and I think I'm just going to do just to counter that a little bit. Going to come in here. I've got some swirly lines that are coming through here. Put it there. Soft. This really, I should have left it yellow. Really, I brought in that mid value. I'm also thinking of the fact the center is somewhere right around here. There's a little mark somewhere up there that shows me where the center is. So I didn't want that to fall right in the middle. Okay, and then let's come down here. I'm bound and determined to cover that up, so I'm going to get some of these darker swirls. Okay, this is where the water is there, the water is there, and the water is right there. So I'll just put a little marks there just for, and right there. Okay, little fat up there. I'm gonna take care of that with pastel though. I just bring this guy there. See, he's got a little bubble on the back of him there. Yeah, what's nice is I've got this violet doesn't look a violet over here. And if I decide I really need it to look violet, I can just use some of the undiluted kind, but I think I'm just going to leave that alone now. Okay, so this is the point at which, let me just go like this so we can see that, where I'm looking at that, and I know I'm looking at the screen. I want to look at it backwards. Okay, I've got that flow that's going down, but almost like a crisscross, which is what I was going for. Crisscross here, and then these guys coming in, nothing really flowing over here, so that the action is right here. And this is subdued, which is the way it'll be with the pastel. Okay. These are probably, those are just a little tacky. those are wet. Okay, but otherwise, the rest of it, this as alcohol ink dries so quickly, it's really nice to work with. And so you saw me do a variety of things. You can keep it as loose or as controlled as you want. You know, play around with, you know, squirting it with the alcohol. You know, just that was just a, you know, little bottle from the dollar store for, you know, $1, just has the rubbing alcohol in it. It's not going to act the same with water. Water just is going to dilute it. The reason you get those great little bubbles is because the alcohol is, you know, well, it's actually, is it resisting it or is it resisting the water? I think I'm saying that backwards, because if you clean it with alcohol, that's what waters it down, but I use that when I paint anyway. So that when you spritz it, that's what's dispersing it. It's not a resistance. It's because it is diluting it right on there. I think I got that right. But anyway, actually, it doesn't really matter. I'm making nice bubbles, so, so I like the way it looks. And I can get more of these in here if I want to in another stage, but I think I'm going to just let this rest. Just wanted to show you what happens when I start putting pastel on. And now this is a painting that's going to be multiple layers, many hours to paint it. So you're just going to see a portion of it, but I thought you might like to see what happens when you apply your pastel on top of the acrylic ink base. Okay, so when I paint in a series, and right now I'm doing this whole series of water and buoys and what else have I got going? You know, the boats, you've seen a few of the things, I've done them, you know, in other open studios. So again, I'm going to start with the dark, and this will be one of the final pieces that I wind up really getting in with the light. So you're going to see those initial layers of the darks that go in. So I keep my palette pretty much together so that I have, you know, similar but not the same colors that I use. So we're going to just move a few of these things that I've collected here to show you. Okay, so we're going to start with these darks here. Okay, am I close enough, or do you want me to zoom in?
I think you're
I think
fine.
it looks pretty good.
I think it's good.
Good.
I think I would too.
Okay, I'll leave it then. Okay. Oh, geez, I don't have the sheet on the side to show you the colors. So let's just put this up here. Oh, whoops, that's not going to work. Clearly, that's not going to work. Here we go. Good old index card. We'll put that here, make sure that shows. Okay, so you're going to see the actual color over here. It's going to look different over here on the colors. You're probably wondering, how do you get a board that is 1/8 of an inch to stick? What I do is I make a hinge with duct tape. So this is actually up here with duct tape. And if I wanted to, I could hinge it at the bottom too. So if it starts moving around a lot, I'll do that. But usually just the two at the top work out fine. Okay, so I'm going to just start getting in some of these dark areas. And this is the color I'm using. This is a blue earth. And it is, okay, lovely. And you know what, I will every once in a while probably come in and zoom in so you can see. Because I don't know, can you guys see the marks that are being made here?
Yes, I see that one.
Yes.
You can, okay.
I see them.
You can see them. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, and because I do random marks, I do not do one kind of mark for the ball, another for this. I just do random because I like the randomness of the way these marks show up. And I'm just going to start off getting these similarity of colors in different areas, and they're going to look very different with these different toned underpaintings underneath. And oh, here's a this is a really, really key thing to bear in mind. Let's say if I mess up a section of this and I want to wash it off, because water resists acrylic ink, I can wash off the pastel and this is still there. So that's a key thing. That's the biggest difference. Well, why I use it than alcohol ink. Alcohol ink will wash off. So if you're planning on using it, that is getting really wild. Because don't forget, blue's going to be on top of there. Okay, coming through, gonna come through and through here. And see, I'm not being all too persnickety about where these colors are gonna go, because as I add these multiple layers, what's gonna happen is I'm going to start refining, defining, adding colors, potentially taking colors off. And I know that this blue is going to look very different in these different locations. Okay, and I just want this to come down here. So I'm just going to block in. Don't want to have a lot through here. This is pretty. Although it looks dull there, it's showing up as being really beautiful. Beautiful blue, and I don't know, I know it's blue earth, but I don't know which one it is. Just do a few little marks there. And this guy's got a little bit of a, because he's reflecting this guy right here. So we're just going to, no, we're going to use a different color there. So I'm going to put this down. Okay, this guy is, okay. This guy's a little bit darker. Certainly could have started with him, but I'm over here now. I'm not going to use this dark one over here. And this is the edging on this. And I'm just going to go around. See the way I can leave some of that color showing through? Is that rope there? There's another little rope there. Okay, and this is actually reflecting in the, a reflection is very rarely the exact same value as the original object. A lot of times for a connection of color, I put down the blue that I'm using up here into the reflection, but the reflection will be slightly muted. You know, if it's dark here, it'll be slightly lighter, and if it's light here, it'll be slightly darker. So that I'll adjust as I paint. Okay. This will go nicely on this darker one on the rope. So I'm going to get a little bit of that right on this rope. And the rope does wind up having like a moss green on it. But I did add blue when I was doing this over here. This is actually black. I don't really paint with black. So I just use the darkest colors that I have. And on rare occasions, I will wind up adding small pieces of black, but usually they're just a really super dark violet or a super dark blue. Okay, so I'm just getting, so I don't want this too dark, so see, stay away from it. This is not going to be as dark as that. So this is my darkest one. I'm not going to put it down there. I can see it's already darker. So this is, can't go here. It's not going to work. Okay, I think that's it for him. I'm going to just put him. Another great reason to use these sorts of boards here on the side. I mean, with something like this, I could put like a little green swatch, a little orange swatch, a little violet, and I could test the colors on there. But I'm just looking for uniformity now, and I want to see what the color looks like. I'm going to get my medium one. I'm going to do this just so you can get the, I'm just going to test over here. Yeah, that is the same color. Look at that nice middle value. Let's see how this looks here. Gosh, I forgot. I'm gonna stop because I was gonna lighten that. That's too dark there. I don't want it dark, so I'm gonna have to stop. And I'll just do that later. And the way I'll lighten it is I'll take this yellow, I'll mix it with the solid white ink that I have. I have one that is, just regular ink, white ink. It's not pearlized. And I will lighten that area. Oh, that's looking nice. I like that. This might take multiple layers. And the idea is I'm going to be able to see as if this is that light. Okay, value-wise, that's what I'm looking for. A little bit of differentiation underneath there. And I'm going to just so you can see it, I'm going to break up that shape there. That would really come towards the end, but I can do it now so you can see it. And the same thing here. This guy's going to come across and he's going to wind up in a couple areas. Because remember this is my key. See this? So this is where this color is going to wind up coming. You can go across. Remember I added a little bit of a variation closer to the buoy. So this is going to look slightly different as I go down, adding this coming through. This is the part that I think sometimes can feel a little bit like a paint by number, because what I'm doing is in my head, I'm saying this yellow is denoting these colors here. But that's okay, because this also helps me decide how much I want to leave an area alone. Maybe that's all I ever do over there. Maybe I don't add anything else to it. This area I am going to leave alone because I want to resolve this, and in resolving this I might come over a little further, so I'm not going to go that. I do have this light in my sketch over there, but I feel as if it needs to feel a little bit darker, so I'm going to leave that alone right now. Bring that down. It looks this. Okay, nice. That little bit, and I've got this there's this lovely little bit of light that's falling right in here. So I can get that really on heavy. There's the rope that's coming out. And I'm going to go right over, look at that. I can go right over that violet. I had a violet drip there. I don't want it there. I can just go right over it. So as much as I've done very loose here, but I can start filling things in. Let's say if I wanted to come in here. I don't want to do too much, but through there. Okay, I can start getting the shape of this. All right there, there's that. Showing up right there. In between, it's coming up.
Betsy, it's Deborah. I like the marks you've made on the buoy. Are you going to be changing the colors?
The buoy, truthfully, the buoy, even in this one, I didn't do a whole heck of a lot. A lot of that's the underpainting, and it's just variations of different types of white. There's a warm white, a cool white, white, I should say. And then I had this peach. This peach color,
Oh, I see.
similar to that, is what's underneath. And then I used a violet to have the shaded end. So that is my plan over here. It's just I've got a little bit of a brighter palette on this side, which is in shade, which kind of doesn't make sense. So I'll probably resolve that. I got rid of the brightness here, but that is still, it's the intensity, the vividness of this orange to me doesn't make sense for the side that's in shade.
I see.
See what I mean? So I'm going to have, I like the way this worked here. I have absolutely no idea why I didn't bring it out further because I brought it down there. So I have to come in with that bluish green, which I still have. Here. Is this it? Yeah. I think it was diluted. I think maybe I'll do that later.
Yeah.
But that's the idea, yes. So it's just playfulness and going in and where is the light? Areas that I want to really bring that up. And see those little bits of yellow, or just that little reminder is I need to break up that area. And what I tend to do with this, as opposed to with a painting on paper or a painting that doesn't have this high texture with the ink underneath it, I do tend to leave as much of the alcohol and the mark making so that it shows through. Let me just do a little bit more before I, okay, so let's check these out. Okay, that's the green that I used on the buoy. So this guy right here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, and he's a combination of greens and violets. Same with him. This is, look at that. And see, the thing that just goes with this whole water idea, you know, I'm just gonna, this muted green, warm. Okay, we kind of think of the, you know, the buoys that are in the water, they wind up getting this lovely, I had this violet, where is it? Let me check it over here. Yeah, like a muted violet. So that's going to go right here, a little closer to where the lit area, where that light, because the light's hitting this. I have to work on that guy there too. It's a little uneven. And then I'll take one of my, this is a, I love these. This is the Mount Vision. This is one of the, I haven't actually even taken off the wrapper yet, but whatever. I'll let some of that blue show through. I'll let you check it here. It is a blue. You probably can't see it. It's a very light blue. I'm going to put it on pretty softly there. And I'm trying to see the contrast of what's behind. Going to help. Okay, and just so you can see this a little bit better. That blue, that original blue that I used, is going to come through. And that is going to create the edge. Okay, contrast. So I don't have to carve out the size of this, and I can neaten this up. Let's say I want to make this a little bit rounder here. I just have to apply a little bit more pressure and it'll go right over that violet, and the violet won't show. You get a nice little stronger edge right there. That's not even white. And I know you've heard me say before, the white that I used for, put this on just so you can see it. It's a little too early in it to do it, but I want you to see. This is the white. That is Diane Townsend number 10. Okay, so now that, the idea is this area feels like this is really catching the light. And as it moves farther away from the source of where the light's hitting, it's not as strong. And then I just can keep going back and in and playing around. So I can define this guy as much as I want. And it's really absolutely amazing on these surfaces, how you can get details. What you're working against is the texture that's underneath. And what you have to keep remembering is, in order to get an edge, you need to lessen the contrast between what is under the texture and what is on top of the texture. So the closer in value I get, the more you see an edge. Over here, we have more of a value and an intensity issue happening here. Here, you can kind of see the blue, but not really, so it tends to disappear. So you see some of the texture, but not a lot of it. So that's how you control the texture, is by that contrast of value or level of intensity, because these guys aren't far off value. The blue is definitely darker than the yellow orange, but so hopefully that's hopefully this is helpful. And I know, it's just sitting with the last demo. I said I would take photographs and show you how I did the water. And truthfully, I forgot to take a lot of photographs. So I think it was Lori that asked me if I would take photographs. So they will appear at some time. I just have to go through, crop out, that water I did for the last one was really challenging. And as much as I liked the painting, I wouldn't necessarily say it was as successful as I had hoped it would be. So, but it was the first time I did something like that. So I'll just do more. Okay, I want to take any questions because I'll be wrapping up soon. And I just want to make sure that if anyone wants to know anything about working with the acrylic inks or on the textured board. I love these textured boards. If you try textured boards, what you want to do is you want to give yourself permission for it to, one, be frustrating when you're first doing it, and two, worry less about the success of the painting and more about your success in handling and managing working on texture, if that makes sense. Because I can remember the first time I used it, I thought, oh, wow, this is like nutty. I don't even know if I wanted to, pursue it, but it was so much fun that, I wound up taking a workshop with Tom Christopher. The first one I took was with Christine Ivers, and it was a nighttime workshop, and she was doing the textured boards. That's how I knew how to do this kind, where it's, just what I say is just a smoother, it's textured, but it's a smoother texture than if you do something that's highly textured. The Tom Christopher workshop I took, fast forward, probably like 5 years later, which was now 5 years, or, oh no, it was longer than that, probably 6 or 7 years ago. And he uses heavy texture in parts of his painting, including using the gesso in almost, as I've described before, Jackson Pollock way, where you're just throwing that texture of gesso on and then putting the pumice on top of it. So you get these really, really rich, lovely layers that are underneath the pastel. And pastel is all about seeing the layers. So you can't go wrong using a textured surface, because it kind of helps to enhance the whole thing. So any questions or? Okay.
Yeah, I do. Betsy?
Yeah.
So you might have mentioned this before and I missed it, but can you tell us the sizes of your color study and this painting that you're working on?
Yeah, this is 8 by 10 on Lux, and this is a 16 by 20.
Okay.
And
you on the color study, do you just stick with local color, or do you do any of this underpainting kind of thing?
okay, that has an underpainting here. I'll hold this up so you can see it. Okay, that was the sketch, and this is gray tone paper, and it is black and white, the Sharpie China marker, white and black. Okay, and it doesn't smear. That's why I like it. You can't erase it, but it doesn't smear. This is what is underneath this.
Oh.
And
okay.
it's underneath in values. Okay, so the whole thing is not toned. It was variation. So that might have been a lighter version. It's the same thing. It was just pressure. I was either pressing harder or lighter. Light pressure, a little bit harder, and then much harder again. And then I used an alcohol wash underneath it. So this had a warm pink. I think it's, I use it a lot. Well, I use a lot of those hard pastels. And I think that one was either orchid pink or carnival red. Oh, here it is. It was orchid pink. I love the warms. I got that from Rosie Nadeau when I first was doing pastel. I don't know if she uses the warms anymore, but I just fell in love with the warm variations of red underneath my painting. I just like that warmth. It makes sense to me, even in the winter. I love seeing, any variation of, in that case, your red violets or your, well, even the orchid pink would look nice. Probably wouldn't use in the winter time the oranges, but I shouldn't say that because, I try all different sorts of things. So that's how I find out if things work or not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Any other questions from anyone?
Betsy, it's Deborah. So when will we find out, or do we, about your next class in January?
Okay, the classes in January, typically at the Falmouth Arts Center and at the Cultural Center, they start up pretty much right after the new year. I think, so that would be somewhere, after the new year in January.
Well,
They usually run 6 weeks at both
Right.
places. I think I'm gonna shift Falmouth. Falmouth is always 6 weeks. During, COVID, a lot of the classes at the Cultural Center were 4 weeks. They tried to keep it within a month. And, I find it's really compressed for, I always have themes. So what I wound up having to do is I ran one into the next so that I could stretch my themes out a little bit more. So they'll probably both be 6 weeks. One's on Tuesday and one's on Wednesday.
What about the next pastels open studio rather?
Sorry. The
No,
open
I'm sorry.
studio, that I'll know probably mid to end of November whether I'm going to do a December one. We're doing a little bit of traveling in December, so sorry. The end of November, I'll know my schedule for December, but if I'm traveling, it might be a little bit hard to do it. So I'll see how that goes.
Okay.
So end of November, you'll know.
So how do we sign up for open studio?
Well, this open studio here, the only way you sign up is I send out my newsletters usually towards the end of the month, and then I just remind people the open studio is coming up, and that I will send out the invitation on the Tuesday before the Thursday of the open studio, which is always the first Thursday of the month. And then you just sign up by just replying I have like close to 500 people on my email list, my newsletter. So I don't really want to send the link out to everybody because not everybody is actually interested in watching it, especially since I send out a recording. So you just have to reply to the open studios.
That's it. Okay.
Yep.
And
Thanks.
Betsy, are both your Falmouth classes and Cultural Center hybrid still, like half Zoom and half in person?
Kind of.
Okay.
I'm slightly adjusting to the makeup of the classes. So currently Falmouth has more people that are able to come to the center. So they had this session where now they have 3 live classes and 2 Zoom classes, but all my classes are recorded. And then all my classes, if you sign up for it and you can't come, you can join Zoom. And that's why it's hybrid. So when I'm teaching at either of the centers, I am connected to Zoom and the Zoom people are right there. And then it's currently it's the opposite at the Cultural Center. I have more people that are on it for Zoom and only a couple people show up live. So, and that'll probably shift. So I'll just see how each session goes. It's advertised as, I believe, half and half, but clearly I adapt to the group.
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. That's good.
And Betsy, what cultural center are you talking about?
Oh, the Cultural Center of Cape Cod, and it is in South Yarmouth. Let's see, the one you took is. Oh, well, wait a second. Who's speaking? I wasn't looking down.
Yeah, that was Margie was
Oh, it was
speaking.
March. Okay, March.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you took classes, it was through the Falmouth Arts Center, correct? And then that's on a Wednesday, and then the Cultural Center, that's on Tuesday, 2 to 4:30.
I just wanted to look it up. I wanted to look it up.
Look them up. They're both centers are great. They really are. The classes tend to be similar, but I wouldn't say they're exactly the same. Right now, both classes are doing this, but I do have a theme, but then I morph it for the group. So for instance, the Falmouth group, They've done a lot of work with the acrylic inks, so I was doing acrylic ink. The cultural center group, we've not done a lot with it, so we were doing the underpainting with alcohol and pastel. So it's just kind of trying to bridge what's what's best for the class, and what I'm trying to stress in my classes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything? I'll tell you, it really is weird just looking at the webcam. My desire to look down here, so I'm gonna have to figure out, I'm gonna have to raise my laptop because it's at least 3 feet below the webcam. Got to come up with a plan for that. Any other questions?
No, but these open studios are really great. I really appreciate you doing them because, I learned so much from them, and like I bought a bunch of acrylic inks, but I didn't know what to do with them. So now I'm going to try them.
Oh, perfect. There you go. And truly with the acrylic inks, just really experiment. There are so many different things. Just play around with them, play it on different surfaces. They act totally different on pastel mat than they work on UART. And truthfully, a lot of that, it's the same with pastels. One pastel is different from the other. You don't know until you use them. And so you find what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Betsy,
Thank you.
this is Deborah, and I love this idea of the open studio. Is it once a month?
Yep, first
It
Thursday
just-
of every month, 5. I did try earlier in the day, but I found that I had more people that could come, the 5 o'clock mark.
This is a good time. I mean, it's good for me because it's not every week. I just, one week goes into the next, like it does for everybody. I'm not prepared. This is a great idea.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you came to it, Deborah.
Smart. Yeah,
you.
thank you for inviting me.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay.
Okay.
Have a nice
Hope to
evening.
see you in person
Okay.
soon.
Thank you, everybody, and have a
Bye-bye.
nice
Thank you so
November.
much,
Happy
Betsy.
Thanksgiving to
That's
everyone.
right.
Enjoy holidays, all of the different holidays. You're going to be honest with it before we know it. And I'll let you know if we'll be meeting in December, okay?
Okay, thank you.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Betsy.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Bye-bye.
Nice to see you.
Nice
Bye-bye.
seeing you. Bye-bye.